So while Pritzker shows off the lake walk and slams Trump, real lives are being destroyed.
It's personal for one of our next guests who lost his 18-year-old little brother, Christian Caldwell, in a Chicago shooting. He was an innocent bystander. That was in 2022. That was a young man with dreams and college plans, just all gone in the blink of an eye, a story that we see far too often in that city. Still, no arrests have been made related to that incident.
Joining us now is author of The Day My Brother Was Murdered, Fox News political analyst Gianno Caldwell, along with former New York City Councilman Joe Borelli. Gianno and Joe, great to see you guys. Gianno, I'm going to start with you, my friend. I was at your little brother's funeral with you.
Yes, you were. Thank you.
What do you think, my friend, when you hear Governor Pritzker try to downplay the murders and the crimes in places like Chicago that got your little brother murdered?
I think insanity, which is what they've been selling in Illinois for many, many years. In 2021, we saw 276 children shot in the city of Chicago, 16 and under. Just this past weekend, we saw 6 people murdered, including a 5-year-old, and 27 people shot. This is a national disgrace on every level. So while the governor says, Donald Trump, don't come to Chicago, many people in Chicago who've experienced this lawlessness, who've experienced this violence, whose families, like mine, have been tragically shattered forever, are saying, Mr. President, please send us help. Because the city officials, the governor, and the state officials have done nothing to make our lives better. In fact, they made things worse with legislation and policy like the Safety Act, which allows for the elimination of cash bail in the state of Illinois. Things must change in the state, otherwise it's over forever for many of the people that live there.
And they called that the Safety Act. Like, notice how they name things the opposite of what they actually are for political reasons.
Exactly right.
Orwellian.
You know, Joe, I want to talk about New York City for a moment, which is your neck of the woods. There's this report today in the New York Post that Zohran Mamdani, and certainly the Democratic Socialists of America, which is, he's, you know, tied to the hip with that group, they want to stop enforcing misdemeanors at all, sort of like make those crimes go away. What would that impact look like in a city such as New York?
Oh, it would be devastating. I mean, just think back 2 summers ago when we had riots on the streets and burglaries and breaking and entering of stores all across our city. There was public outrage by average New Yorkers, not just the leftists, not the leftists that Zohran might count as supporters, but of average New Yorkers who live in every neighborhood. You know, the irony of all this and tying everything together is that 2 years ago, Kathy Hochul, the Democratic governor, called in the National Guard to come on the subways in New York to address overwhelmingly the number of misdemeanors that are occurring there. That's actually one of the highlights of her tenure as governor because it was successful. Now to see these Democratic mayors and governors freaking out that a Republican president is using the National Guard in the exact same way is just unfortunate, and it's delusional. It's delusional that they haven't even realized that they have been unable to control crime in their cities.
You know, Gianno, the biggest lie from the left is that Black Lives Matter, right? The whole point from the left, they told us with soft on crime policies and defunding the police, it was supposed to make it more equitable for minority communities, but instead it's just gotten minorities murdered and killed in so many cities across America.
Exactly right.
So why are they
Exactly
lying?
right. Well, I've come to learn after many years of being a conservative that more often than not, Black lives don't matter to Democrats, it's Black votes that do. And that's the unfortunate reality. They've used Black folks, honestly, in a way that I think is very derogatory, using race as a weapon against candidates who actually care about law and order. And that's oftentimes Republican candidates who want to ensure that their safety. What people don't really mention is a lot of the folks who are victims of violent crime happen to be African American. So wouldn't you think if they actually cared about Black lives, they would not have soft on crime policies? What we're seeing in Chicago and in New York, especially if there's a socialist Democrat that wins, is George Soros' bidding is getting done. He did it with the prosecutors across the country. That's why I started the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety at caldwellinstitute.org. Please support our efforts there. Because this has gotten to the point that lives are being lost at alarming rates because of policies that are being pushed by hard left folks who can give a damn about Black lives. And that's the honest reality in many cities, including my hometown of Chicago.
Joe, very quickly, I want to talk about California. Governor Newsom and his press team putting out just a slew of tweets. They're kind of like on this binge, highlighting crime stats and percentages from what they're saying are red states. That's the point to attack Republicans. But what they're actually highlighting in almost every case is high crime in cities run by Democrats, in many cases for decades. Are they doing this on purpose? Are they throwing some of these Democratic mayors under the bus, or are they just hoping that people are too stupid to realize that a red state does not necessarily control the local policing in cities?
Well, they're hoping that the public is stupid enough to think that, but everyone knows, that St. Louis and elsewhere are synonymous with Democratic mayors going back generations. I was chair of the National Forum of Republican Mayors and Council Members, and I actually think of my colleagues who were Republican mayors in Democratic cities. So when I hear Newsom say that, I think about Mayor Jerry Dyer of Fresno and Mayor Karen Go of Bakersfield, who are trying their darndest to eliminate crime in their communities, despite the best efforts of Gavin Newsom and the Democratic-controlled legislature, who constantly put up roadblocks and obstacles for them to do their jobs.
And by the way, we put up one of those on the screen attacking Josh Hawley in Missouri, saying, oh, St. Louis. St. Louis has not had a Republican mayor since the 1940s, Governor Newsom, just as a little fact check for you.
Joe and Gianno, we appreciate you both. Thank you.